Hey everyone, this is Simon with Food Travelers. In this episode, I'm really excited because I am actually returning home. I was born in Cambodia, so I'm really excited to see what I haven't seen in quite a while, and also the progress that has been made in the country with all the different places since I was last there. And of course, Cambodia is famous for its temples, and in this episode I'm actually going to visit 3 of the more popular temples, even though there are just so many beautiful temples that have been scattered all around the area. And in this city, it's actually Siem Reap, which holds majority of the temples and where lots of tourists come to flock to kind of take a look at these ones. So watch through to the end of the video and I'll actually speak some Khmer, which I'm happy that I actually was able to retain some as a kid. So stay to the end if you want to hear me speak Khmer to kind of say hello to all of those Khmer who may be watching. This first temple is the Bayon Temple. And these temples, they were built in the late 12th or early 13th centuries. One of the most distinctive feature for this temple is the 4 faces that are smiling in each direction. There is a total of 216 gigantic faces on the temple's towers, and since 1995, Japan actually has been a major contributor in safeguarding and conserving the temple and the area around it. Now, something you'll see a lot is a lot of people taking pictures. The temples around the Angkor area region is very popular for weddings and photographs, of course, with its beautiful background and all the gorgeous temples that they have. It's really a great spot for people to come take pictures. So you'll see tons of that if you do visit. And I definitely would recommend visiting because it is just something where seeing it on video is beautiful, but seeing it firsthand is just a different thing. It's different, so it's a must-see, definitely a bucket item list. So for the second temple, it's actually probably the second most famous temple, and it's the Prohm Temple. And this temple is actually one where you'll probably see in other videos where people have mentioned about it being in films, especially probably the most popular film was the Tomb Raider films with Angelina Jolie back in 2001. This temple is also part of the UNESCO World Heritage List, which was placed back in 1992, and it's one of the most visited complexes in the Angkor region. One of the things it's famous for is the massive trees that are kind of growing all around the complex, as well as being in the Hollywood films, as I mentioned earlier. And this temple, pretty much to kind of see the jungle has kind of wanted to take it back over. And so it's really unique compared to the other temples because you just see these massive trees that are kind of, in a way, kind of hugging the temple structure itself. And it's just so unique that it kind of sticks out compared to the other temples in its own kind of unique way. So I was really happy to see this, and as you'll see in the video itself, I actually do show a very short clip of a scene in which Angelina Jolie in the film is shown at the part of the temple where I would probably say is the most famous portion of the temple, and the tree that's hugging the temple. So that should be coming up shortly. And one of the amazing things about kind of being around the atmosphere of all these places, you feel the history, and it's essentially true with many kind of ancient and historic sites. But yeah, that's the one thing that watching it through a video, you just don't have that feeling. But being there and actually seeing and being able to kind of touch things and go through, you really kind of go through that past history of how people kind of lived and what they did in terms of moving around in certain structures like this. And I'm actually going to go and start speaking some Khmer and say hello to any Khmer viewers and friends who are watching. So say bang on teng ak khnia alo nangខ្ញុំមានអារម្មណ៍សប្បាយចិត្តខ្ញុំមកលេងស្រុកខ្មែរអរគុណច្រើន complete like and subscribe YouTube channel ខ្ញុំមានអ្នកណាចឹងសួរស្អីទៅសេ comment នៅក្រោមបន្តែខ្ញុំសូមទៅសេអង់គ្លេសខ្ញុំអត់ទាន់ចេះអានអក្សរខ្មែរប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំឥឡូវហ្នឹងខ្ញុំរៀនខ្ញុំរៀនទៅសេអក្សរខ្មែរប៉ុន្តែខ្ញុំអត់សូវបកាយអរគុណច្រើនជម្រាបលា And for the last temple is one that probably majority of people do know, and that is the Angkor Wat Temple, which is prominently featured on the Cambodian flag as well. Something I kind of wanted to note is that in kind of I guess you could say a birthright, the Cambodian government allows Cambodians and Cambodian descent to actually attend all these different temples for free. Of course, you have to provide proof when asked if you are Cambodian, and there are those security and guards and everything else who are around the complexes, and so one of the things they will do is they'll actually speak to you in Khmer. So if you do speak Khmer, it does help to be able to speak with them to kind of go through, and they'll kind of test you out, because if you are not of Khmer descent, of course you'll have to pay the entry fees for the park, and depending on your length of stay or how long you want to see each of the temples, you'll have to pay a higher price or lower price depending on the length itself. But one of the amazing things I thought about Angkor Wat was, even though in this tropical hot climate, when you walk through some of those hallways, just the way that they were built, but you just feel this really great breeze, and it is much cooler and comfortable in some of those hallways walking through, where as you step outside you could just feel the heat, but in those hallways I would say there would be at least a 10 to 15 degree difference, so it feels much more cooler, much more comfortable than the heat from being kind of directly outside itself. And kind of one of the things that I do also want to kind of point out for the Angkor Wat Temple is there's 3 different layers that you can go through. So you kind of go through the outer layer, and then the inner layer, and then there's a top layer. Angkor Wat actually is the largest religious monument in the world. It measures about 162.6 hectares, and it took over 28 years to construct. This temple was also actually briefly featured in the Tomb Raider film with Angelina Jolie as well, and in actually those scenes she spoke some Khmer, and in my opinion, watching the movie, her Khmer was not very good at all, and I was actually kind of difficult to understand what she kind of said. But of course I got to give her credit for actually attempting, because Khmer of course is not a well-known language, and outside of those in Cambodia and those who are from Cambodia, not too many people can speak the language itself. Something else I wanted to point out was earlier in the Angkor Wat Temple, you saw there was a big, humongous moat, and that was filled with water. The first time that I was actually back, there wasn't as much water kind of in that moat itself as it was during this visit. And one of the reasons was because I found out later on that there was a enormous reservoir near the complex that kind of holds a whole bunch of water that kind of they allow the water to flow through and fill in that moat. So they actually have done a wonderful job in kind of creating a way to kind of keep the appearance of what Angkor Wat was prior to some of the droughts that occurred. So I thought that was a really good thing. And of course, to wrap up a long day of visiting temples in the heat, you have to go have some street food. And in this case, we went to the Siem Reap River, where tons of vendors kind of just set up at night, and it kind of showcasing all the different type of foods that they have. So as I walked through, kind of looking for the different things, there's just so many things to try. And one of the things I really wanted to try was some of the noodles, and that was something I was craving at the time. But walking through each of the vendors, there's so much street food to choose from, and they're all pretty inexpensive in terms of how much they cost each. Usually around between $1 I would say and $1.50, depending on what you get. And you could get a pretty decent sized meal. For me, I ended up getting some noodles with beef and vegetables that were stir fried. They're flat, thick noodles, which you'll see later in the video. But as you can see through the walkthrough of the different vendors, there's just a variety of things you can get, including some fruit shakes and some grilled meats and other various snacks and desserts. So definitely a lot of choices with definitely a reasonable price to pay. If that's something that you're worried about spending too much money, definitely come have some street food, and that'll save on the budget for sure. And one of the things you'll see during these time is there's actually a lot of people who come out at night because it's much cooler, and so you'll get a lot of families gathering, having dinner, or actually get together with friends and meeting up and eating and talking, discussing, and kind of just enjoying the atmosphere. So something in Cambodia you'll see quite a bit at night is where a lot of the people will start to come out rather than during the day where it's pretty hot and most people are either indoors working or they're just trying to stay in a cool place. But something to note about the noodles, one of the things that people may not know is that for the eggs, duck eggs is actually the preferred eggs rather than chicken eggs that most do in the West. So if you do order some dishes, most likely you'll find that it'll come with duck egg if you are getting a dish with eggs with it. And one of the things that I think Cambodians do to use with the duck eggs is that it's just the flavor. It has much more flavor than a chicken egg does. I actually grew up calling chicken eggs back in the US duck eggs when I would use Khmer to call an egg. Overall, I was really happy to be back home. There's a lot of comfort that I felt, even though I haven't been here in quite a while, and even though I've been lived in the US for such a long time. But there's a comfort and familiarity that being here has brought that I really, really enjoyed and hope to continue to enjoy throughout my time here in Cambodia. And to wrap up the episode is the notable. And for this episode, of course, I have to throw in Angkor Wat and the temple surrounding it as the notables, as these are just fantastic historic temples that are a must-see and a bucket item list. So if you are able to go, please do not forget to visit these locations. If you've enjoyed the content you've seen, don't forget to support the channel and hit like and subscribe. And if you want to see additional pictures of food and our travels, go over to our Instagram page and follow us there. And thanks for watching.